Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning sexuality podcast bringing you bold conversations and Big Clit Energy. I'm thrilled to announce that Please Me is the #1 ranked sexuality podcast in the USA and worldwide. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sex education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Last episode, I shared a replay of my viral webinar, Rock Hard Wood and Wetter Sex, all about boosting libido, improving blood flow, and deepening pleasure. If that sounds like a topic worth going back for, be sure to give it a listen. Today, I'm bringing you something a little different. My guest interview on the Liquor Talk podcast with host Vic, featuring me. We dive into sexual wellness, confidence, communication, and Big Clit Energy, and how to bring more pleasure and authenticity into your relationships in 2025. Huge thanks to everyone who's rated, reviewed, and shared Please Me. Because of you, we're now the #1 sexuality podcast in the world. Your support amplifies vital conversations about pleasure, healing, and sexual empowerment. Keep the momentum going, leave a review, share your favorite episode, and help us reach even more listeners. This week, I'm shouting out 5 amazing countries where Please Me hit #1: Nigeria, Hungary, India, Kenya, and Austria. Thank you for tuning in and turning up the volume on pleasure. I'm also raising funds for survivors of the recent catastrophic typhoon in the Philippines, which struck just weeks after a devastating 6.9 magnitude earthquake hit the same region. 2 back-to-back disasters have caused immense loss and destruction. My editor and her family were deeply affected, and I am so grateful for anyone willing to help. Please check the show notes for the donation link. Any support you can give is truly appreciated. Want to ask me a question for the Please Me podcast? Join the conversation on Patreon or subscribe to my Substack newsletter. Both communities give you access to exclusive content, updates, and the chance to have your questions featured on the show. Please Me is for mature audiences, so sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me. My personal favorite is reverse cowgirl, where the woman is facing away from the man, because it opens up the area of the clitoris where you can use a toy or your hand to stimulate yourself while you're getting penetrated. So any position where you can touch yourself, either with a vibrator or with your hand, and get penetrated at the same time is...
Episode starts now. Welcome everybody to another edition of the Liquor Talk podcast. Check out this podcast and other great podcasts on the NBG Podcast Network as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to tell you right now, this episode is going to get more spicier than a goddamn Bloody Mary, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me today, she is the host of the Please Me podcast. It's Miss Eve. How you doing today, Eve?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing phenomenal. Why don't you let's get right into it? Why don't you tell the people about your platform?
Absolutely. I have a show called Please Me, and it aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health. And I'm also a licensed physical therapist, and I treat conditions of the pelvic floor and sexual health conditions. So my podcast and my profession go hand in hand. And I really try to make my shows, talk in layman's terms. I'm not talking medical jargon. This is real talk with, people that are, interested in, really destigmatizing those conversations about all sorts of topics regarding sexuality, whether it's from kink all the way to speaking to a gynecologist and, everything in between. So I really try to cover a lot of different topics.
That's amazing. So why do you feel like it's so hard to have those conversations? It used to be now we're moving into 2025 where at least it's a little more accepted now. But why has it always been so hard to have those kind of conversations?
I think, we don't early on learn how to have conversations about difficult things. And sexuality is one of those conversations that's very taboo. There's, the societal pressures and norms, and there's the religious pressures and norms, and then your family's pressures and norms that often, inhibit us from wanting to have these conversations, or feel comfortable having those conversations. So it really takes practice to have conversations about sex and sexuality. And so I think that we all need a little bit of help in that arena, and so that's what I'm here to help you guys do.
Exactly. That's amazing. So what was the motivation behind starting your podcast?
So, about 6 years ago, I went through a divorce, and I was in a sexless marriage for probably 5 of the 8 years that I was married. And when I got divorced, I promised myself that that would never be the case again, because I had always been a very sexual person. And I knew that that was going to be something going forward that was going to be important to me in my relationships. And I've been a physical therapist for over 20 years. My original specialty was pediatrics, believe it or not. And when I moved to Florida, pediatric positions were not as easy to come by. And I happened into the sexual health arena because I went through my own sexual revolution, so to speak. And I really wanted to help other people go through what I went through and help them with their sexual healing, and with their, getting on that road to sexual liberation.
That's right. Hold on. Now you just said my home state. So what part of Florida are we talking about here?
I'm in Wellington. How about you?
I'm in Tampa.
Okay,
Now
okay. So
what
we're not too far apart from each other. Tampa's about 3.5 hour drive from here.
now is Wellington like North Florida or South Florida?
It's South Florida. It's the Palm Beach County.
Oh, okay. I know plenty of people from Palm Beach. I know plenty of people from that area. A lot of people they leave Palm Beach, they go to Orlando, they go to Tampa, or some go to Miami. But another personal question that just came to me: how did you stay in a sexless marriage for 5 out of the 8 years? How the hell do you be with somebody you're not, and there's no intimacy? How does that happen?
Well, that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to get a divorce, honestly. We went through therapy for years, and we talked about it, and it just never improved. And how did I stay? That's an interesting question. And I have to say that it probably stems from the fact that I was abused as a child, sexually abused as a child. And if you know anything about trauma, you know that people that go through trauma often find that they, can put up with a lot of bullshit. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you good, you good.
Okay, okay. And and we know how to suffer. We learn how to suffer early, and we can continue suffering. And so I suffered for a long, long time. And then I finally was, that was one of the reasons why I divorced. But there were others, and they compounded, and finally I had enough. But 8 years later, I'm much happier. And so, if people out there hear this and they find themselves in an unhappy marriage, they have to really think about, what it means to them to stay in an unhappy marriage. Or would you rather start over fresh and, have an amazing life? So, I mean, I'm not saying, to get divorced, but I'm saying reassess your life, because you
Mhm.
can make it better if you take control and, take the reins.
Yes, that's all facts. You definitely need to reevaluate things, and also, if it's not making you happy, then what's the point of staying? Like, I know divorce are costly and stuff, but please have your ducks in order before you get up and divorce somebody. Like, because I'd hate to have somebody leave somebody and they don't have their ducks lined up of where they're gonna move to or how they're gonna move and stuff. They're just up at the spur of the moment and leave the person. No, you need to have everything calculated before you leave, and also it's 2025, ladies and gentlemen. If you're out there suffering, you need to go talk to somebody, because no one deserves to suffer in silence. Because life is too short. I don't care if you're somebody that is a domestic violence survivor or whatever it is. It's like life is just too short to be out here stuck in something that's not making you happy, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship. Life is too damn short. People out here dying and stuff and at young ages. So I just feel like life is just too short. And I'm saying that also because I just celebrated a birthday, and I'm like, I'm not trying to take advantage of, what I'm saying, you know, wasting years away, being stuck in relationships because you don't get those years back.
100%. Absolutely. Life is too short. And with the way the world is going, we really have no idea, what our future is going to be like, right? So we have to focus on the now. And are you happy now? How can you be happy now?
Yes, and it's we have definitely got to focus on how can you be happy now, and also you got to make the moves, but you better be ready for the repercussions if those moves aren't made correctly.
Absolutely. And hopefully the repercussions are going to be beneficial and positive.
That's real. That's definitely real. So, what's the most talk to me a little more about your podcast. What's something you've learned about your podcast? What's something you've learned about yourself while doing the podcast?
Well, I mentioned trauma earlier, sexual trauma when I was a child. And it's interesting because I went through my healing journey really in my 20s, and I did a lot of therapy in all sorts of arenas. I won't go into all of the details, but I really felt like walking into this podcast, I was healed. You know what I mean? Like I was past the healing. And having spoken to so many amazing coaches and women and people that are experts in their fields, I found that having the show was actually another layer of that healing journey that I did not anticipate. So that's been a beautiful thing, and through that, I've learned a lot of different things that have helped me to really peel another layer of that healing away. So that's been a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It definitely has been beautiful. I know for the fact that you can really heal by something by talking about it and also bringing light to it, and you don't feel like, oh man, I just feel like shit right now, because I could talk about past traumas and guess what? I can smile about it. I could joke about it because I went through the time where it hurt, but now it don't really hurt no more. I was just telling people to thank everybody for showing me birthday love, and also I wanted to tell people to never let something or someone try to devalue the theme of the week, because my job was on some bullshit and I just was like, you know what, I'm not gonna let y'all try to ruin my birthday. So, and also those bastards didn't even tell me happy birthday, but it is what it is.
Wow, and that shows you exactly the type of place you're working. So, you need to keep that physical, that emotional distance because, if people are not valuing you, um,
Hmm.
you need to be conscious of that, So, I hope you had an amazing birthday. Hope you had some good times.
Yeah, still some good times. One thing I didn't know is I need to just start planning shit for myself. Because sometimes when you're rolling solo, don't really have nobody with you, it does suck. But it is what it is. I'm blessed to see another year. 2025 be here before we know it. All right, let's get back into it. Talk to me about your last episode. Talking about sexual desire discrepancy. What exactly is that?
So that was an episode with Dr. Liz, and she talked about sexual desire discrepancy. And what that means is that in a couple, two people have different desires, right, for sex. Some might need it 5 times a week, and the other one might need it 2 times a week. And so there's a discrepancy, and trying to figure out how to come together so that both partners can be happy is important because in almost all relationships, you're going to find that there is some discrepancy. And so you really have to work on trying to make it work for both sides.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But I also feel like that's something you find out while you're dating the person before y'all decide to tie it down. That's something you find out you need to try to find out while, what I'm saying, while we're still going through the dating phase, still learning about each other. And also because I've had to learn that too the hard way with women, because not every woman is the same when it comes to sex. Like some women, they like this way, some women don't like this way. And also the frequencies as well. And also, I noticed y'all talked about scheduling sex. Now, I gotta push back a little bit because I feel like if you gotta schedule it, it might not be as good because it may seem like it's a chore, or you never know how that person is feeling, or you might not be in the mood that day. So, what do you say to that?
The reason why I like scheduling, the idea of scheduling sex is because, sometimes people are so busy, and if you have two busy people, when you try and come together and it's not scheduled necessarily, one person's mind might be on something else at the moment and not necessarily on the pleasure that you're trying to accept, right? So when you schedule, it becomes like a date. You look forward to it, you plan for it, you take a shower, you put that sexy lingerie on, and you are ready. And, sometimes if the other person is not necessarily in the mood, right, it can still be a sensual time. It doesn't always have to involve penetration. It can be, hey, I'm not really in the mood for, penetration tonight, but maybe we can, masturbate together, or maybe we can do massages together, or something else. Like, it opens the conversation up for other potential things that you can do together and connect in a sensual way.
Mm, that's interesting. Because we never really thought about that. So do you really? So how does one go about saying have that conversation of let's plan some intimacy, let's plan to have some sex tonight? Like, does it is it blatant like that, or how do we do that?
I mean, I do it all the time. Like, when I'm feeling like I need some love, I'll tell my partner, I need you tonight. And, most of the time he'll say, I'm ready, and he likes mornings. And I personally am not a morning person when it comes to sex. So, that is because, and the reason is because I'm not I have a lot of stuff in my mind in the mornings. I wake up and I have like a list of to-dos, and my mind is not focused on it. So if he wants a morning session, we can, do that on the weekends when I don't have so many things going on in my to-do list in my mind. But it's fun, and then you can kind of banter back and forth throughout the day in text messages or conversations, when you're talking with them, and sort of build the anticipation. So it's actually a lot of fun to schedule. It doesn't have to be, months in advance. It could be the day of, or, hey, what are you doing in the afternoon at 4 today? I'm going to be home. I'm going to have a few hours to myself, come join me in the shower or something, and it becomes a lot of fun, when you start to open up and have these very frank conversations about sex with your partner. It becomes a flirtation. It becomes a lot of fun.
Um, that's very interesting. Now, do you feel like a lot more couples would stay together if they and not cheat on each other if they had these conversations? Because based on everything you're telling me, I feel like they would. I feel like more couples would stay together and not be out here cheating on each other if y'all would just simply have those conversations. Because I'm really impressed by this. To tell my partner, hey, I might need you tonight. Or now, what happens? Uh, well, we'll talk. Tell I'm gonna get to that one thing, but what do you think about the cheating thing? Do you think that will cut down on cheating?
I think so. I mean, I feel like a lot of times people cheat because they need attention, right? And their partner's not giving them the attention that they need. And it could be because there's a discrepancy in sexual desire. It could be for other reasons, but they need attention, right? So if you are asking for attention, right, you're asked, like, hands down saying, I need attention, right? And your partner is willing to give it to you, then you're going to be satisfied. You're not going to be looking outside of the relationship. So I definitely think it would definitely help. And I think a lot of people do cheat because they need that intimacy, and it kind of fizzles away as life gets in the way. We become very busy. If we have kids, we become very busy with them. And so it just, like, there's just not enough time in the day. So if you are focused on that and making it a priority in your relationship, then you're going to be in a happier relationship, and you will less likely want to look outside of the relationship for those intimacy needs.
Yes, and you know what? And come to think about it, because I know life gets hectic, it gets busy for especially us being content creators, and then we have jobs outside of this. You know what? We need to go ahead and say, sit down. Hey, this day we gonna do something together. I don't care if we're too tired. I'm like, because not me personally, if somebody tells me, oh, they're with somebody and they're always too tired, my ass, even if I'm tired, I will go get an energy drink or something. I know this ain't healthy, but I will make that sacrifice for my partner. And you got to have somebody that's willing to go the extra mile, because the one thing I've learned about some couples is people are just lazy nowadays, especially when it comes to pleasuring others.
Yes, and you definitely want a partner that is going to want to pleasure you, right? And that's what my show is all about. It's called Please Me, and it's about women taking their pleasure back because, there is something called the orgasm gap, right? And a lot of times women don't get the same amount of pleasure as men do. So really owning that pleasure, asking for that pleasure, and communicating with your partner so that you can get your pleasure needs met. So I 100% agree.
Okay, staying with that pleasure, because I did a couple of episodes with the previous sex hosts as well. They all kind of got on the men about the pleasure and stuff. So what do you think a woman's role in her pleasure is like? Because there's got to be a reason though there's a discrepancy in the orgasm gap.
There is a reason, and the reason is that what we see in porn, what we see in movies, what we see on television is always penetrative sex, which is how men orgasm. Women need external clitoral stimulation in order to orgasm. Only 3 to 5% of women can orgasm from penetration alone. So if you're not giving external stimulation, oftentimes your partner will not get there, right? So what is the woman's role? The woman's role is her role is to teach her partner what works for her. Every woman is different, and just like every man is different, right? You may like anal play, another guy may not like anal play, right? And you would never know that until you're intimate with the person. So knowing what the other person likes and doesn't like, what works for them and doesn't work for them, is really essential. And the woman's role is to teach their partner what they like and don't like, to tell them, to explain to them, to, build them up and make them feel like they are the one that they want to be with. And also, the man's on the other side, the man's role is to listen and to accept that information, and also to tell their partner what they like. I mean, if you're into a kink and you've never told it to your partner, shame on you. You know what I mean? We
For
need to
real.
be able to have these conversations because we want to be happy in our relationships. And if you're into some kinks, and your partner doesn't even know about it, guess what you're looking for outside of the relationship? Someone to fulfill those kinks. So it's important to have these conversations. Both partners should be equally getting their needs met.
Yes, both partners should definitely be getting their needs met, because if not, somebody else is gonna go cheat, or we're gonna lead to. They might not even cheat. It might be a breakup. So I definitely agree to that. And also, you got to have those conversations, men and women. We need to have the conversations about, hey, what are we doing, not doing, or what are we not doing? What are we doing? Or what we're not doing? Like if we gotta go be like coaches, break over tape and stuff, stuff like, hey, I'm not now personally, I'm not trying to film it unless it's gonna be on OnlyFans. But even if we gotta break down X's and O's, be like, hey, I liked it when you did this. Hey, I didn't like it when you did that. Because I kind of had to learn that the hard way. Because some women, they like to be fingered differently, but then some women, they don't even like it. They just like it when you go down on them. They don't even want you to use your hands with. But every person is different. So people, we need to be having these conversations. And also, if the conversation, if it's tough to have the conversations, then you might need to find a new partner.
And sometimes it's just tough because you're just not used to having these conversations, right? But practice makes perfect with everything. And these conversations are a clear, um, you know, it's also in that category where if you practice and you're having these conversations frequently, they're going to get easier and easier and easier. And, I remember when I was in my 20s, I could not even speak my needs. I had to write them down on a piece of paper and hand them to my partner. So I had trouble communicating, and now I have no trouble at all because I've practiced and practiced and made it a priority in my life. So practice makes perfect. That first conversation may be awkward, and uncomfortable, but the next one will be a little bit less. And until you are, talking away and telling all of your partner all of your needs and desires and dreams and kinks and all of those things, all fantasies and all of that. So yeah, I just encourage people to be honest and open, because if you're choosing someone to spend your life with, right, that's the person that is has got to hear all of these things. And if you're not sharing those things, you're really cutting yourself off from really connecting with that other person.
Yes, you are. You really are. Because if you're not sharing them and you're not open to that, better believe they got somebody else that is. Because nowadays, people out here, they know for talking to multiple people out here. So if you ain't doing it, you better believe someone else is really doing it. So, and while we're on this talking about pleasure, why do people still believe talk about pleasure is taboo? Like, it shouldn't be. We're about to be in 2025 in a few weeks. We're about to be in 2025. Why haven't people grown the fuck up? Why do you feel like people haven't grown up?
I think it's a process. I definitely think growing up is a process that takes some people well into their 50s and 60s to finally get there, right? And some people grow up faster, and in their 30s, they're like, able to have these conversations. It really just depends on the person. But why is that the case? I mean, all of the patriarchy is still strong, right? And there's still a belief that when you get married, you belong to your partner, right? And you are now property of that person. And so that really can mess with a person's mind and how they relate to the other person. So really, if you think about each person being on their own individual path, right? You're on your path, I'm on my path, but we decide to come together to be in a relationship, right? Respecting that the other person is their own full person, right? With their own full life, with their own full desires, with their own full profession, with their, all of that. And respecting that. And you will be able to sort of tease out the conversations that you need to have with that other person. So I think, because of societal norms, I think because of religious norms, that are all still present, right, in our
Mm-hmm.
society, and family norms, and then of course the culture of purity culture, right, that's still very prevalent in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all of that inhibits people sexually, and so unless you are really trying to um, get rid of that mindset, it's going to affect you, and so you have to really make an active effort to change.
Yes, you gotta make that live effort to change, and I'm living testament to that because before podcasting, I went there to talk about. I talk about it every now and then with either my homeboy. If I had a question, I'd talk to either some homeboys or homegirls, but never in a million years I think I'd be doing sex episodes. And also, I ain't gonna lie, the sex episodes they'd be a lot of fun to record. Also, when you're talking about some sex, shout out to my first co-host, Lashana. She helped me open up and really once I got comfortable with her talking about those kind of things, it's like the floodgates opened. I got to the point where I could have the conversations about sex, even though whether I'm getting any or not. So shout out to my first co-host. We're still cool today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Look and Talk. The more you drink, the better we sound. Thank you to everybody that's checking out the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, the MBG Podcast Network, or if you watch us virtually on YouTube as well. Thank you to everybody that's been tapping in for 2024 because 2025 is going to be a big year as well. So when I first met you at the Afros and Audios podcast conference this past year, you had this shirt called Big Clit Energy. What exactly is Big Clit Energy?
Well, are you familiar with the term big dick energy?
Yeah, of course, because most men walk around with big dick energy. So yeah.
Okay, exactly. So, big clit energy is the female equivalent of big dick energy. And it's basically the confidence that you have in your sexuality, in your ability to perform in the bedroom, in your ability to have multiple orgasms, when you want to have them, and you have confidence in your sex life and your sexuality. That translates to all areas of our lives. It translates to the boardroom. It translates to having these conversations on a podcast and, getting in front of an audience. All of that is big clit energy. And so I like to talk about how you can hone that energy and use it to your advantage. Just like men have been using big dick energy, right, for years now. When I started my podcast, I was really looking for the female equivalent of big dick energy. And I searched and searched the internet and really came up short. A couple articles I read said that women can also have big dick energy. And I was like, why would I want big dick energy? I don't have a dick. I want to have what my body has, which is the female equivalent of the penis is the clitoris. So that's why I came up with the term big clit energy. And I actually just recently trademarked it. And, so it's going to be a whole thing.
Yes, yes. I'm glad you trademarked. Congratulations on getting that trademark because I was like, oh shit, you. I saw that. I'm like, okay, she confidence in that, Say so. I kind of picked up on it. I picked up on. It. I don't know about everybody else, but it's like so. So do you have to have those conversations whenever somebody just stops you or tries to condemn you for it? I hope not, because those people are idiots.
When I wear my Big Clit Energy t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you get the haters like, oh, why are you objectifying women's bodies and stuff? Like people who haven't grown up.
Yeah, it's funny because I wear my t-shirts for conferences, for podcasting conferences. It's not something that I like necessarily wear like out and about all the time because I honestly don't like t-shirts that much. I like to wear like pretty feminine clothes. Um, but I wear those t-shirts specifically during my conferences because it really attracts the people that are supposed to talk to me because they're interested and in what I have to say, right? And then it also, on the other hand, repels all the people that don't want to talk to me, that are, afraid to talk to me or that are turned off by, having a conversation about big clit energy. So I use it in that way, and then I've worn it to parties, also like lifestyle parties, ethical non-monogamy parties, and it's a big hit there too.
I'm glad that's a big hit. Hey, we support the Big Clit Energy movement over here. We support all the naked movements over here. So
Yes.
now, I got to deal with this. With the year ending, what is something you learned about sex in 2024 that you didn't know already?
Hmm. Something I learned about sex that I didn't know. Huh. That's a good question.
I think,
I think,
well,
one of the things that I learned in this year of, my podcast is about the orgasm gap. I knew about the orgasm gap because I had experienced it for myself. And basically what the orgasm gap is that men typically in heterosexual relationships have more orgasms than women. So in married relationships, let's say like men have 95% of the time and women have like 56% of the time orgasms each time they have sex. So there's a big gap, right? So I knew
mm,
about the gap because I had experienced it myself. Like we would get to the end of our sex session and I hadn't had an orgasm, and I was okay, there's a gap, but I didn't really know that it was a phenomenon that happened across the board in all heterosexual relationships, from hookups all the way to marriage and everything in between. So that's something that I learned about through this podcast. And my podcast has been around for about a year and a little couple months. And so that's something that I learned. And as soon as I learned about it, I was like, everyone needs to know about this. Everyone needs to know what the orgasm gap is because we all have the potential to close that gap for ourselves with education, and with empowerment. And so that's why I like to talk about it so much because that is something that I recently did learn about. Because not just because I experienced it myself, but because I heard about the statistics around it and was like, wow, this is important information that I think everybody needs to know about, men and women, because men want to pleasure their partners, right? But if they knew that their partner wasn't getting it, right? Maybe they're faking it, or maybe they're, saying that they came but they didn't. Um, you know, Men need to know too because they want to pleasure their partners as well.
yes, and also us men need to know as well because that way we ain't walk around here with some big dick energy thinking we did something when really we didn't do nothing. Because let's say, God forbid, that relationship don't work out, the next one we run into, she might be honest with us, and then we looking stupid. So I really feel like I definitely agree with you. I feel like everybody needs to have that conversation. Like, hey, if you didn't get yours, then what can we still do? Because like most times we still energetic. We're not it don't zap out all the energy in us. So we gotta figure out ways to go ahead and get them off. So and
I agree with
and
you.
uh-huh.
Hmm. I agree with you. And what you just said is like, what can you still do? Because just because the man suddenly, has an orgasm, right, and he came, that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole session's over, right? You can continue doing other things. So I like that perspective. I definitely do. And so absolutely.
Yes, and we got to, and I think the biggest thing I learned this year is it's always the ones you don't expect that will give you a good time when it comes to sex. Because you might be messing around with somebody, you're thinking, okay, this is just a one night thing or whatever, and then next thing you know, you're like, damn, that was good shit. you know.
Yes. Sometimes it's the silent ones that, are the most surprising. Never know until you try.
Yes, you never know when you try. So, um. So do you think that's why a lot of women, going back to the pleasuring thing, do you think that's why a lot of women are nowadays okay with being in girl on girl relationships?
It's interesting that you say that, and I want to go back to one thing that we were just talking about, and
Uh-huh.
checking in after having sex, right? So, and I think the kink community does this really well, because in the kink community they do something called aftercare, and aftercare is when you are finished with the session. You check in with each other, you take care of each other, you bring them water, you make sure that they feel good, and whatever that aftercare may be for each person, right? But it's a perfect time to check in and say, hey, that position that we just did, like 2 positions ago or whatever, that was it. That angle was like exactly what I liked. So checking in afterwards is a really great thing to do. And
Mm,
it doesn't have to be directly afterwards if you don't feel comfortable at that point, and you can do it later, that's fine. But checking in afterwards, aftercare is so key. And so you just brought up the LGBTQ community, right?
mm-hmm,
And they don't necessarily, on both ends, men and women, don't experience the orgasm gap like heterosexual relationships do. And the reason is that because their parts align differently, right?
mm-hmm,
They have to have these conversations about who likes what, who does what. You're going to be the top, you're going to be the bottom, you're going to, I like oral, I don't like fingering, I don't, all of the things that you would have a conversation about to make sure that the other person is comfortable. In the LGBTQ relationships, they talk about early on in relationships. And I think that heterosexual relationships can learn a lot from those relationships, because we all should be having these conversations, not just the LGBTQ population, but all people in relationships should be having these conversations about pleasure.
If you've ever wished sex could feel more connected, more intense, or honestly just more fun, you need to check out Shameless Care. They're a telemedicine company built entirely around sexual health, real doctors, real prescriptions, and products that actually work. Like Shameless Chemistry, their oxytocin plus tadalafil blend that deepens connection and boosts arousal. Or Shamelessly Aroused, a topical cream with the active ingredient found in men's ED medication, increasing blood flow exactly where it counts. Every order includes a short video introduction from your doctor, transparent pricing, and no subscriptions ever. Just real, sex-positive healthcare that delivers results. Because you're a Please Me listener, you can use coupon code PLEASEME for $15 off your order of any product on the Shameless Care website. Use the code PLEASEME, that's PLEASEME, at checkout to claim your $15 off. Again, that's shamelesscare.com, code PLEASEME. Because great sex shouldn't be complicated, it should be shameless. This episode is sponsored by Shameless Care.
So you said I definitely agree with everything you said. We definitely need to have the conversations, and if you can't have the conversation with the person, why are you fucking them? If you can't have that conversation, then why are we fucking in the first place? If we can't have that conversation, I don't care if
100%.
it's a one night stand or if it's somebody I've known for years, if you get in bed with me, we gotta have the conversations, because you just never know. And also, the sex is a little bit better when you are communicating. And I definitely agree with you on that aftercare and stuff, because it's nothing more embarrassing than hearing somebody say, "Oh, a day later or 2 days later, hey, I didn't get mine." I'm like, why you ain't say something while we were still there? Like, I was still feeling good. Like, we could have kept going. So we need to aftercare. Like, even if it's just we take a little water break and then go over a few things, we can keep going.
Exactly. It doesn't end just because the man comes.
Yes, it does not. It don't stop just because we get ours. No, we need everybody to get theirs. So, um, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen, yes, we need everybody to get theirs in 2025.
Yes.
So
That's a nice goal.
yes. So what is something that you feel like people should start doing in 2025 that can help them get to that point?
Communication. Communication, hands down. Telling your partner, you know, let's say top three things that are your favorite, say, positions, or the way that you like to be touched, or whatever it may be. Top three things. I think that that's a good place to start, and talking to your partner is absolutely key. Also, talking about how you have an orgasm without your partner, right? What are you doing to have an orgasm without your partner, and translating that to the bedroom. Don't just say that it's just for when your partner is not in the room with you. Why not bring that information right into the bedroom and share it with your partner? And most men want to pleasure their partners, right? I think that that's the case. I mean, if you're with a man that doesn't want to pleasure you and that doesn't care about you, only cares about his own pleasure, then you need to really reevaluate that relationship. But I think that in most
Mm,
relationships, men want to pleasure their partners. So having those conversations is key. And also, men need to get over the fact that toys are their friends. Okay. And not to be intimidated by a toy, because if you know the statistics that only 3 to 5% of women can orgasm from penetration alone, what's left? You need to be able to stimulate the clitoris, and not everybody can do it with their hand, with the man's hand or the woman's hand. Sometimes they need a vibrator or a toy. So don't be intimidated by it. If you really want to pleasure your partner, be open minded, and it's only going to expand your sex life and make it even better, because then you can bring in other toys and other things that are is going to really like blow your mind. So in 2025, have that goal to like have mind blowing sex, because we all can get there.
yes. With all the shit going down in 2025, all the things that may be stressing us out, we need to be having some mind blowing sex to relieve our minds. And also to the men out there, I need y'all to be taking y'all supplements as well. You need to start taking the She Legit. Order it off. I'd rather you order off the TikTok shop or Amazon. Don't be going to the goddamn gas station get them honey packs, because I done heard people saying they got headaches and stuff from getting them damn honey packs. And also, we need to be taking care of ourselves as well with our diets as well, like getting some more fruits in our diets as well. And also, we gotta really do better with taking care of ourselves, because if we do that, we'll be able to last longer, and that way we can help them get to their orgasm. And yes, and now that is something I'll admit that is on my bucket list, to use a toy on a woman. To the ladies out there, if I use a toy on you, I motherfucking like you.
You might find that you really like it a lot, and you're going to start buying more and more toys, and then you'll have a toy chest to choose from, because all of them are a little bit different, and it is a lot of fun. Doesn't every child like to play with toys? So adults like to play with toys too, and sex is how adults play. And you mentioned feeling good, right? And how we can like relieve stress, and sex is a stress reliever, and it releases endorphins in our body. It releases those feel good chemicals in our brain, and it makes us feel relaxed, and it makes us feel good, and it makes us feel happy. So absolutely, striving for that mind-blowing sex is always a goal.
Yes, striving for that mind-blowing sex is a goal. So, would you ever recommend going to a adult toy store with your partner? Now, what would you say if somebody wanted to say that to you? Like, because I've been to an adult toy store and I'm like, you know what? I've been in here. It's pretty funny, but I would love to go in here with a lady. That's another thing on my bucket list as well, to hit up the couple stores, because you got to do whatever it takes to keep the people happy, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. And how would you know what the person's into if you don't explore those things together, right? So if you don't feel comfortable going into a store, in person, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many things in here. I don't know where to start. And, I'm embarrassed or feel uncomfortable. Online, Amazon has an amazing sex store, and then there's Organic Lovin'. You can look on pleaseme.online. I have a huge store on my website. Look at it with your partner, see what looks interesting to you. Do you like to be tied up? Do you like to be blindfolded? Do you like to, have sensory play? Do you like vibrators? What kind of vibrator do you like? All of those things can be really fun conversations to have with your partner.
Yes, I definitely agree. I definitely feel like those conversations we need to be having, because now with the orgasm gap, we definitely need to have those, because it's definitely no excuse of why no people are still not having orgasms in 2025.
100%. I'm with you on that.
Now I did pull something from another one of your episodes. What is something you can make for somebody that should automatically trigger in their mind, hey, I want to have some sex tonight. Like as food wise, what's something you could take as a restaurant you could take them to, or is it something you can make for them at the house to be like, hey, that should be somewhere in their mind. I want to have sex tonight without saying I want to have sex tonight.
I talk a lot about the watermelon challenge, and a big bowl of watermelon left on the counter can be a perfect indication that you want to have sex that night. And watermelon hydrates you, so it increases your blood flow. It also has a chemical called citrulline in it, which acts as Viagra basically and opens up the blood vessels so that more blood can flow to your genitals. So, leaving out if your, partner's not going to be home till late and you're already in bed waiting for them, leave them a big bowl of watermelon on the counter, and that could be a good indication. And also, it's good for them. And so, the watermelon challenge is something that I often tell my clients to try. It's 1 week of having watermelon every single day. And you would have 4 cups of watermelon if you're having red watermelon. There's also such a thing as yellow watermelon, and that has more citrulline. So you only need 1 cup of that a day. So if you can find the yellow, 1 cup of yellow, or if you can't find it, 4 cups of the red every single day, and see how your body changes over that week. And I can tell you that at the end of that week, you're going to have rock hard erections. It makes a huge
Mm.
difference with erectile function.
Oh, that's good. Now, as a man, now, what is something I could give to my lady to be like, hey, baby, I want you tonight?
Ordering oysters at dinner is a good indication. I think you're talking about the episode with Amy Riley, who is an aphrodisiac expert. And that was a really fun episode. We came up with this really incredible dinner that you can plan for your partner. That was really fun. But ordering oysters and feeding it to your partner at dinner would be really sexy. Or just feeding each other in general is really sexy too.
Mm. Yeah, that's exactly the episode I put. I'm like, damn, look at you. You know your episodes like the back of your hand.
It's only been about a year, a little bit over a year, and every single person I learned from. So and that one wasn't too long ago, but she was really interesting, and that was a fun episode.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I feel you on that, because that's why if you look at my catalog, I've had over different guests over the years, because you learn something from all of them, and it's really amazing thing to really learn from all of them, from because you learn something from everybody new, even people you don't expect to learn something from, you definitely learn something from them.
Definitely. It's been, like I said, it's been a growing process. It's been like a healing process, which was unexpected, but definitely a growing process, talking to many different coaches and experts in the field. So it's been so much fun.
That's real. Now, when it comes to going back to sex, so give them what's a sex position that you feel like people need to try that's like very underrated because most people we always go for missionary, we always go for doggy, or we always go for cowgirl. What is a position that's very underrated that people don't talk about enough?
Hmm. My personal favorite is reverse cowgirl, where the woman is facing away from the man, because it opens up the area of the clitoris where you can use a toy or your hand to stimulate yourself while you're getting penetrated. So, any position where you can uh, touch yourself either with a vibrator or with your hand and get penetrated at the same time is an amazing position. Those are my favorites. Also, another position that I really think is underrated is the spooning position, where your partner is behind you, the woman's in the front, and you're getting penetrated from behind. And it's incredible how much movement you have available to you in that position. It can be like a lazy position when you don't feel like holding yourself up anymore, but it's also a position that can be very active on both sides. So, trying that out as well.
Mm. Those are some very interesting positions. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, y'all are definitely taking note if you haven't done so already. I hope y'all are definitely taking note. So based on the feedback that you've gotten from people, what's a position that you feel like people just need to stop doing because it's not good.
There is no position that's not good. Okay.
That's
Um,
what's up.
yeah, there is no position that's not good. And I have to say, like, during my first season, my final question of every single episode was, "What's your favorite sex position?" Right? And I was surprised to hear missionary, because that's my least favorite sex position. And the reason why it's my least favorite is because when the man is on top of me, I can't reach to touch myself. There's just no space. So, but missionary also has a lot of ways to change it up, right? So you can do missionary with legs over the shoulders. You can do one leg over the shoulder. You could do legs over their elbows. There's a lot of ways to change up missionary where you do create some space between the man and the woman so that you can have that external stimulation of the clitoris. So, playing with the positions is something that is also fun too. It doesn't always have to be exactly the same, right? So, all positions are good. And I was surprised to hear so many people loved missionary. And the reason why most of the people said that they loved that position was because they could look into their partner's eyes and they can eye gaze with them, and that helped to form a connection with them emotionally. So, if that's what you're into and you want that emotional connection, that is a great position. So, really, it's, every position is amazing, and trying different ones is a lot of fun, and finding out what your faves are is part of the exploration. I mean, like I said, this is how adults play. So if you're only playing one game your whole life, you're going to be bored. But if you're playing all different sorts of games, you're going to have a lot more fun. So exploration is key.
Yes, I definitely need somebody that wants to explore because it's boring as hell when the person only wants to do one position. So, and what's funny is that person only wants to do missionary. I'm like, ma'am, I know it's good and all, but can we explore, switch it up? God damn.
Absolutely. And sometimes you have to try something new and see how they like it, and then try something else and see if they like that too. I mean, it has to come from both sides. But you're right. If you're only doing one position all the time, that is extremely boring. And that's why,
Yes.
sometimes sex starts here in early on in relationships, right? And maybe the other person is doing it because they know that they want to catch that partner, right? But once they get them, they're like, I don't want to do that anymore, because it's kind of like not as exciting, or it doesn't feel that good, and I've just been doing it because, I want to please them, but it wasn't really pleasing me. Both sides need to be pleasured. So it's important for both sides to be pleasured.
Yes, both sides need to be pleasured, and also you got to keep that same energy in the relationship, because from the start of the relationship to the end of the relationship, you got to keep that same energy, because people get bored quick. If you say we're gonna have sex and it's just the same positions, people are going to get bored quick, and then you might not be orgasming from those positions, unless of course it's just that position that where you already know that it's gonna get there, So, and variety is key.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yes, variety is definitely the spice of life. Now, going back to the episode where we're talking about the different kinks and stuff, what is something people need to avoid like eating or having before having sex?
Oh, okay. um, So I would say anything that is going to make you gassy, I would definitely avoid. So, and everybody's body and constitution is different. So for me, it's like cabbage, you know, Brussels sprouts. There are certain things that like I put into my body and immediately I'm like, oh, that was not a good idea. You know what I mean? And everybody knows what those things are for themselves. So avoiding those types of foods. Also, what my guest had said on that episode was avoiding heavy foods because you don't want to eat like a gigantic steak and then your body is all the blood is flowing to your stomach to process and to break that down, so you're going to have less blood flowing to your genitals afterwards. And if you want to bring that person home after a nice meal, you want to eat something light, something easy to digest, so that you have that blood flow later on for other areas. And blood flow is the key to great sex, because a man needs blood flow for an erection and a woman needs blood flow to be engorged. And a lot of people don't realize that a woman has to become engorged in order to have sex. Otherwise, their body's not ready and they might not enjoy it. It may be painful. So, blood flow is key for both a man and for a woman.
Mm. Yeah, well, now see, I just learned something new right there, because blood. I knew we needed blood flow. I didn't realize that women needed blood flow as well. So that's something. The blood flow is the key, ladies and gentlemen. So if y'all gotta eat light or take some supplements to get the blood flow right, then you got to do that.
Absolutely. Or, have some watermelon on the side afterwards. That's going to help with that blood flow.
Yes, yes. Now, can we debunk the myth before we get out of here? Because so many people think you're supposed to be dead tired after sex. Because I remember years ago, people, I had a sex podcast host on. They were like, "How the hell were you still energetic enough to play video games after sex?" I was like, "I was just energetic, shit." So, do you have to be dead tired after sex for it to be good?
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
Some people get sleepy after sex, and that is common. But not everybody does, right? And so if you want to play video games, or you want to cuddle, or you want to go have a meal, or you want to have snacks, or whatever that may be, it's totally normal. Yes, a lot of times people do get sleepy, and men often have a refractory period where they need a little bit of time before they can get another erection. And oftentimes they'll get sleepy during that time, but not everybody's the same, right? So know your partner, figure out what works for them. That is the key, because everybody's different, whether it be a man or a woman.
Yes, that's real. All right. So what is your major plans for your podcast for 2025?
Well, I'm going to keep putting out episodes every week. I just started doing ad free episodes on Patreon. So I'm going to be building up my Patreon, you know, uh, profile, to have even more amazing content on there, webinars. And I will be taking Big Clit Energy to a course. So I've done a couple of speaking engagements about how to get Big Clit Energy. So I'm going to be taking that and creating a course around how to get Big Clit Energy. And so that will be an offshoot of my show.
That's real. And lastly, why don't you tell the people why they need to subscribe and tap in with the Please Me podcast?
I mean, why wouldn't you? If you want to have mind blowing orgasms, this is the place to go to listen to all sorts of conversations regarding sex, sexuality, sexual health. And if you have a sexual health condition, this is a great place to go to learn more about those conditions so that you can get those issues fixed so that you can have that mind blowing sex, right? Because there is no shame in having any kind of sexual health condition.
Yes, that's real. And Eve, I want to thank you for joining me today on Liquor Talk. Thank you for having me. Thank you for joining the Liquor Talk. Now, if you ever need a male's perspective on anything, remember we're in the same state. So if you need me, I'm just a DM away. I'll look forward to collaborating with you again. If you ever want to come back on because you want to talk about some more sexual things, I'll definitely love to have you back on, and I'd love to help you out any way I can.
Fantastic. I love when we help each other out. That is so key. And absolutely, I would love to be back on the show. And yeah, we need to talk about maybe you coming on mine. Let's see what we can decide to talk about for the show. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's do it. And thank you again. And thank you again to all the subscribers. Thank you for pouring up with us on today's episode of Liquor Talk on National Black God Podcast Network, better known as the NBG Podcast Network or Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what did you think of this episode? Go ahead and rate this episode 5 stars if you haven't done so. Give us some feedback. And if you got some questions or you need some advice, slide into DMs on Instagram or Threads or wherever you are on social media. Until the next episode, we're out this thing. Peace.
If you're feeling disconnected from your body, struggling with intimacy, or facing a sexual health condition, you're not alone. There is no shame in what you're experiencing, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. But the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to reclaim your confidence, pleasure, and connection. That's why I offer a free 15-minute discovery call to explore what's going on and whether working together is the right next step. Spots fill quickly, so don't wait. The link is in the show notes. Grab your time now.